Welcome back to Comics, to Hot Comics TV, and The Devil of the Desert. These are the works by Tetsuji Fukushima, a creator who is working on a manga series before manga was even a thing in Japan, in the Japanese comic book market. Now, this was published on the magazine Shonen, Shoujo BōkenŌ. It ran from 1949 all the way to 56, so this is a pretty good hefty series. This is a reprint, a special edition that came out on the anniversary of the series. Tetsuya Fukushima was born in 1914 and sadly passed away in 1992. The man did a large volume of works and has influenced a very large amount of manga creators. Now, why I got into this? Because I was absolutely mesmerized by the artwork when I first encountered this, the slipcase. I saw this and I was absolutely mystified about the beauty of the artwork, and I was not sure what it was getting into. This is a slipcase that kind of houses the entire series. It's all beautifully put together, as you can sort of see. It's got foiling and everything else, and it's lamination on card. Let's take a look at the covers before we start getting into what the series is about. Okay, so that's number 2. I got everything out of sequence. Okay, so this series of comics was based on Western comics, and the manga creators who have been influenced after this series are people like Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy, and Hayao Miyazaki. And Miyazaki sort of has from Studio Ghibli, and he has what he call a mention that Laputa in the Sky and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind have been very heavily influenced by this series, because these were adventure series. The protagonist of this series is Bob, and his family, his father, Mr. Brown, and Mary. I think these characters are going through this fantastic world that's kind of loosely based on what the Earth that we know of is based on. So it's a mystical sort of world that these characters are inhabiting, and it's kind of like a similar thing to the Winds of Oniamis, where the Winds of the Oniamis, when you see that movie, it's not Earth. It's kind of an analog of Earth. The director kind of like based it similar to like a world, but in this world there's other things happening that are similar to Earth, but it's not quite Earth. This is a fantasy science fiction series that has mythical and prehistoric creatures in its world, and deserts turn into jungles, and you have jungle warriors, and you have all of these other events happening, and science fiction events. So it's quite the adventure. But sadly, I think that this series has been lost to time, because I would be pressed to say that people know or are aware of this series, especially us in the West. We're not really aware of it. I'm just going to start flipping through the covers so you can sort of see. I think this was the very first, if not the issue number 0. This is kind of like a houses the entire series. So I'm just gonna quickly flip through this, and then we'll go over the first one. But let's go over the covers. So these are reproductions of the boys magazines publications, and one to the comics. I don't have a comic at hand, but they're not too far away from what they are. Let me pause these and then I'll show you. And I'm back. So this is your normal comic book affair. So you can sort of see the real estate that we're working with here. So they're not small, they're a little bit wider. So Silver Age, if anything. the artwork is absolutely superb and it's beautiful. I have never encountered anything like this. Such beautiful work, influenced by the golden age of comics and newspaper strips. Fukushima stated that he had been influenced by all of that to do this series. And you gotta remember that this is just right after the end of the war, so I wonder what he encountered. I never seen any interviews with Fukushima. I have sat on this for quite a long time because I didn't know how to tackle this. I didn't know how to talk about this because it's such an odd series that has been forgotten time. I don't think even the Japanese or the majority of Japanese people will know about this series because it's such an old series. So it's one of those things that's kind of, I think, being lost to time, but beautiful work. This is almost like saying that Flash Gordon by Alex Raymond, people are not aware of it, you know. So I feel that it does have that DNA of Alex Raymond. That's the flavor that I'm sort of feeling on this, that Fukushima would have taken inspiration from. And maybe Alex Schomburg when he did stuff, or what do you call it, Marvel. I don't know. It feels familiar when I see this work. All right, let's take a look at the first book, because otherwise this is going to be a very long video. I kind of did a little bit of homework on this. I had to kind of go through with the translator. Let me just adjust the camera right now. Here we go. That's a little bit better. So I went with the camera, with my cell phone. I ended up trying to translate a little bit of the material. So that's Tetsuji Fukushima, the creator of the series. I think he wrote it and did also the artwork. So yeah, now let's talk about the production of this. They scanned the magazines as they were. That's why you see the color being washed. That's why you see the color being a little, the registration misprints and everything else. The registration marks are a little bit off, but they've been very faithful to the reproduction, and I think this is an absolutely outstanding reproduction. They even went as far as making the ages of the pages a little bit yellow, as much as the aging of the pages that they originally scanned, and very faithful to the original work. So super reproduction for this series. Now this comic book has oddities. I think, I'm not too sure, I've never seen comics or newspaper prints with numbers for the reader to be able to know where they are supposed to be reading in which panel. And that's what this is carrying. Towards the end of the series, it loses the numbers, I think. But at the very start, it's got all of these numbers in the actual pages. It's quite interesting to see that. So, okay, let's talk about the story now. So, this is the main cast. The protagonists are Mr. Brown, Mary, and Little Bob. I think they're hailing from some sort of Western country. That could be England. It's kind of specified, but it's not kind of mentioned as well. At the end of the series, it just says that they're gonna go back home to their country, but the translations weren't very clear. Let me say this. The translator was giving me kind of like a garbled, jumbled up translation of the kanji, so it was a little bit tough to go through the series. So that's the main cast. Bob is the number one character, and the Demon King, or the Devil of the Desert, he is a Jin type of character that once you burn incense in this urn, he will be conjured, he'll appear. these guys are kind of like pirate criminals or something in this desert area, and they have kidnapped Bob and Mary and Mr. Brown, their father, and they're trying to see if they can conjure. They're after the gene that's in this, and they're talking about it. And Bob and Mary are kind of being tied up and held back, and they're being held against their will. And they talk about that if you conjure this gene can do things for you. And I think they want him to cast him for what do you call it, to win a war, because they're in between kingdoms, and these kingdoms are at war right now. Now you can sort of see that there's like, what do you call it, mythical prehistoric creatures as well in this world. This world is quite fantastic. It's amazing. Everything's amazing about this series. I have so much joy out of this book. It's so awesome. Anyway, beautiful reproductions, very faithful, and the anatomy that Fukushima brings on board is just outstanding. Very clear panels. All the artwork is just clean and really well constructed. Fukushima was a master artist. Anyway, going back to it, so they realized that these fantastic creatures in these jungles, and the pirates, and they're getting killed. And Bob kind of goes ahead and runs off after they get caught up by these jungle dudes, these jungle warriors that they keep like his family. And this is the best part. After he hears that you can conjure the gene, he gives it a go, tries it out. And in this panel, when I was translating this, I laughed because the gene goes, "How dare you summon me, you worm." He's got always a bad attitude, this genie. This gene is a double-edged sword, this character. He's got his own MO. He will do things for you, but you gotta be aware that maybe he might not want to be doing them for you. And the thing that made me laugh is that Bob's still very skeptical. He goes, "Oh my god, it actually did work." So there you go. This is good stuff. So there's a witch, there's dinosaurs, there's jungle warriors and monsters. What an amazing series. There's this centaur with wings, mystical creatures that are at odds against the Jinn, the devil of the desert, the devil king, fighting out each other. But the artwork, again, it's superb. Got golems as well. Now, how did this story operate is that it's a little bit of like Johnny Quest, I guess. Bob is that type of character, adventurer, and they get into all of this mystical, crazy stuff like in Johnny Quest. It's got a little bit of an Indiana Jones DNA as well, those type of adventures. See how the Gene's rescuing them. Got golem creatures. And these two kids, my goodness. They don't flinch, they carry guns. Just absolutely beautiful work. The Gene's quite big, he's not a small guy. He runs around against monsters that are a lot bigger than humans. So there's another factor with the Gene. See, he's got traps like in Indiana Jones. Quite cool. So people like Akira Toriyama and Hayao Miyazaki sort of mentioned that this was an influential part for their manga. Because this is before manga was a thing, before there was even a style, before Osamu Tezuka came up with Kimba the White Lion or Astro Boy. Because it's full adventure. Beautiful work. Just beautiful. So they keep on trying to escape from all of these events that are taking place. The witch is making, what do you call it, an alliance with the centaur creatures. This jungle monsters, monkey monster people. And the princess. So the princess is another main character to the cast, and she talks about that her father has been cursed and it's been driven away from the land, and her kingdom's being under attack. So you can sort of see that that's the demon king who later on becomes the jinn, and it's been cursed. So you can sort of see that the narrative is sort of explaining that. That's because and it's trapped into the urn. And there's these other characters, demigod characters that are elemental in power. This character controls fire. There's another one that controls the wind and weather. And they're at odds with the centaur creature and the witch. There's a goddess of the forest as well. I wish this eventually got correctly translated and it was printed in English. It would be a total treat to have that. But who knows who owns the rights to this series of magazines. Gigantic eagles. There's the goddess of the forest. And these two guys are at odds. The water god and the fire god, or entities, whatever you want to call them. It's action-packed adventure. That's why it's so cool. And this is the fantasy element. The other volumes have more science fiction stuff, like these spaceships. It's absolutely beautiful. Anyway, that was the first volume. We'll tackle the next ones. I'll go over them later on and talk about more about the story. But I just wanted to make this introductory video about it. Let's go through this one quickly. Let's finish this up with this. This is, I think, the first episode 0, maybe the introduction to the series. So they're more on the jungle than anything else. But the artwork is the drawing card for me. It's absolutely beautiful. You can sort of see the Gene fighting spaceships, because there's robots on this as well. See how big the Devil King of the Desert is next to a tank. It's amazing, just amazing. And he can fly as well. So there you go. He's against, what do you call it, jet fighters on that one. Just outstanding material. Just outstanding. These are the majority of the covers. This is beautiful. This set. Again, I think I mentioned this. I got it around 6 years ago, and I got pretty lucky, I guess. And I was mystified about the art. That was the thing that was just absolutely spellbound by it. Anyway, that's Devil King of the Desert by Master Tetsuji Fukishima. Alright, thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe and all those good things. And have a lovely day. Take care. Bye-bye.